Have you ever found yourself carrying the immense, almost physical weight of resentment, that heavy, dark cloud that seems to follow you everywhere, coloring your perceptions and draining your energy? Have you ever struggled profoundly with the seemingly simple yet Herculean task of forgiveness, even when you know intellectually that it is the right and healthy thing to do? In our complex and often challenging world, where interpersonal conflicts, deep misunderstandings, and painful betrayals are not just possibilities but inevitabilities of the human experience, we are constantly presented with the difficult choice of how to respond to the wounds we incur. It is precisely within this universal struggle that the ancient, timeless, and profoundly practical wisdom of Stoicism offers us not just empty platitudes, but truly transformative and actionable insights into the genuine, liberating power of forgiveness. Welcome to our channel and to this very special video, where we will embark on a deep, meaningful, and life-altering exploration of 10 transformative Stoic lessons, each one a stepping stone on the path toward not just understanding forgiveness, but fully embracing it as a way of being. These are not mere theoretical concepts. They are timeless principles, rooted in the powerful teachings and lived experiences of history's greatest Stoic philosophers, thinkers and leaders like the wise and resilient Marcus Aurelius, the freed slave and profound teacher Epictetus, and the eloquent and insightful Seneca. Their collective wisdom, honed over centuries, provides a robust framework to help you cultivate a lasting sense of inner peace that is unshakable by external events, to strengthen your relationships through understanding and compassion, and ultimately to lead a more fulfilling, purposeful, and joyful life. Thank you all so very much for watching and for joining us on this profound Stoic journey of self-discovery and healing. Our exploration begins with a crucial and grounding reminder. Remember that forgiveness is a process, not a single event. The Stoics, in their profound understanding of human nature and psychology, recognize that healing from deep emotional wounds and consciously letting go of long-held resentment is not an overnight endeavor that can be completed with a single decision. It is instead a journey, a path that requires immense patience with yourself, deep self-compassion for your own pain, and a courageous willingness to sit with the discomfort that arises as you heal. There will undoubtedly be days when you feel you have made great, encouraging strides forward, filled with a sense of progress and lightness. And these will likely be followed by other days where the hurt feels as raw and acute as it did on the first day. This oscillation is a completely normal and expected part of the human healing process, not a sign of failure or weakness on your part. Think of forgiveness not as a final destination you arrive at, but as a skill you are continually practicing, a mental and emotional muscle you are strengthening over time with consistent effort. Just as you would never expect to master a complex new instrument or a difficult foreign language in a single practice session, you cannot and should not demand instant mastery over your deepest, most complex emotions. It takes repetition, unwavering perseverance, and a great deal of self-grace. One particularly helpful Stoic perspective is to view forgiveness as a daily and even moment-to-moment choice, a conscious decision to release the tight, painful grip of anger and to deliberately turn your attention toward healing and peace. It is not about reaching some mythical final destination where you will never feel a pang of hurt or a flicker of resentment again. Rather, it is about consistently, bravely choosing the path of peace and letting go, again and again. Seneca wisely advised that every night before going to sleep, we must ask ourselves a simple but powerful question. What weakness did I overcome today? What virtue did I acquire? In the specific context of forgiveness, we might gently ask ourselves, how did I practice letting go today? What grudge did I release, even if just a little bit? How did I choose compassion over resentment in a difficult moment? It is vital to celebrate the small, seemingly insignificant victories, the incremental. shifts in your heart and mind. Maybe today you caught yourself ruminating on the hurt for the 10th time, but this time you gently redirected your thoughts towards something neutral or positive. Maybe you found a fleeting moment of empathy for the person who wronged you, recognizing their own struggles, fears, and human imperfections. These are the essential building blocks of forgiveness. They are the daily, conscious choices that gradually, inevitably lead to true emotional freedom. Be endlessly patient with yourself throughout this process. Forgiveness is not about achieving perfection. It is about the willingness to keep showing up for yourself, to keep practicing, to keep softening your heart even when it feels hard and brittle. Some days will be easier than others, and that is not just okay, it is human. Trust deeply that each sincere effort you make is planting seeds of healing that will bloom in their own perfect time. As Marcus Aurelius reminded himself each morning, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and I have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own. Aziz, this daily reaffirmation of our shared humanity and fallibility can be a powerful support on your forgiveness journey. So wholeheartedly embrace the process, knowing it is a path of courage, resilience, and profound personal growth. Be gentle with yourself. Celebrate the small victories and trust in the healing power of time and consistent practice. As you continually choose forgiveness, you will find yourself gradually unburdened, more at peace, and more deeply connected to your own innate wisdom and compassion. Furthermore, to aid in this process, embrace gratitude as a powerful antidote to resentment. When we are stuck in the quicksand of resentment, our vision becomes tunneled. It is hard to see beyond the immediate negativity and pain, but the Stoics recognize that gratitude is a phenomenally powerful antidote to this state. By intentionally, deliberately focusing on the good that still exists in our lives, the love, the beauty, the simple pleasures, we actively shift our perspective and pry open our hearts to the possibility of forgiveness. Gratitude helps us recognize the abundance that surrounds us, reframe our challenges as opportunities, and soften our hardened hearts towards others. When we are truly connected to a genuine sense of thankfulness, it becomes significantly harder to hold on to bitterness and spite. We start to see the shared humanity in others and recognize the ultimate pettiness and self-destructiveness of holding on to grievances. As Epictetus so eloquently said, he is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. Make gratitude a non-negotiable daily practice. Keep a journal, expressly vocalize your appreciation to others, and simply pause throughout your day to connect with a feeling of thankfulness for the incredible gift of life itself. As you cultivate this attitude of gratitude, forgiveness will become a more natural, flowing extension of your state of mind. You will find yourself more inclined to let go of the past, to move forward with purpose, and to fully embrace the richness and potential of the present moment. As Marcus Aurelius put it, when you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. Let this profound sense of gratitude guide you on your path to forgiveness and lasting inner peace. A pivotal Stoic lesson is to forgive for your own sake, first and foremost. Holding on to anger, resentment, and bitterness is akin to drinking a potent poison and then expecting the other person to suffer from it. It is an illogical act that corrodes our own inner peace, dampens our capacity for joy, and keeps us mentally and emotionally chained to a past we cannot change. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca pointedly remarked, anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it. When we make the choice to forgive, we are not necessarily condoning the hurtful behavior or foolishly welcoming a toxic person back into our lives without boundaries. Forgiveness does not automatically mean reconciliation or putting ourselves in harm's way ever again. Rather, it is a conscious, empowered decision to release the heavy, exhausting burden of grievances and to reclaim our own emotional equilibrium and right to happiness. Think of it this way. When someone wrongs you, they create an initial wound, a cut, but by choosing to harbor resentment, you are essentially allowing that wound to fester, to grow more painful and infected, and to slowly poison other healthy areas of your life. Forgiveness, then, is the healing salve you apply to your own wound to promote recovery. It is how you stop the hurt from spreading and doing further damage. It is a recognition that your own well-being and happiness are far too valuable to be left contingent on the actions or apologies of others. You forgive so that you can move forward unburdened, so that you can focus your precious energy on creating the life you truly want, not on endlessly dwelling on the hurts of the past. As Marcus Aurelius counseled, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. In this light, forgiveness is the ultimate victory for the self because it frees you from the tyrannical rule of anger and bitterness. It allows you to rise above the fray of pettiness and find a stable peace within yourself, regardless of external circumstances. So, embrace forgiveness primarily for your own sake. Recognize it as the ultimate act of self-care, a gift you give to yourself. It doesn't excuse wrong behavior, but it liberates you from its corrosive, long-term effects. Forgive so that you can heal, grow, and live with a lighter, more peaceful heart. As the Stoics understood better than anyone, inner tranquility is the true mark of a life well lived. To achieve this, you must let go of the expectations you place on others. When we feel wronged, it is perfectly natural to want and even expect the other person to apologize, to make amends, and to validate our feelings. We might fantasize about them coming to us full of remorse, acknowledging the deep hurt they caused, and pleading for our forgiveness. But here is the hard, stoic truth. Those expectations, however natural, often lead directly to further disappointment and entrenched bitterness, not to healing and peace. The Stoics understood that clinging to specific, rigid expectations of how others should behave is a surefire recipe for sustained suffering. Why? Because we cannot control other people's actions, reactions, or capacity for self-reflection. They may apologize profusely and sincerely, or they may never apologize at all. They may try valiantly to make things right, or they may never change their behavior. If our ability to forgive and move forward with our lives is contingent on them first meeting our specific expectations, we are essentially giving away our personal power and agency over our own happiness. Instead, the Stoic path is to consciously release those expectations and to focus our energy exclusively on what is within our control, our own thoughts, our attitudes, and our choices. We choose to forgive not because the other person deserves it or has earned it through their actions, but because we deserve peace and freedom. Forgiveness, in this empowered light, is a gift we give to ourselves. This doesn't mean condoning hurtful actions or staying in harmful situations. It simply means detaching our emotional well-being from the choices and behaviors of others. We can have preferences for how we would like them to respond, but we must avoid making demands. We can and should communicate our feelings and set healthy boundaries, but we do so for our own clarity, not with the expectation that it will force someone else to change. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own." So, embrace forgiveness by letting go of the exhausting burden of expectation. Free yourself from the draining cycle of wishing others would be different. Accept that their journey of growth, or lack thereof, is their own, just as your journey is yours. Focus your energy on what you can control, your own healing, your own growth, and your own inner peace. In the end, that is what truly matters. An often overlooked aspect is to practice self-compassion throughout this journey. One of the most important aspects of forgiveness is learning to extend that same compassion and understanding we might offer a friend to ourselves. As humans, we are inherently imperfect beings who inevitably make mistakes, experience failures, and accumulate regrets. It is dangerously easy to become our own harshest critic, dwelling on our shortcomings and berating ourselves mercilessly for our perceived flaws or for our role in a situation. But the Stoics wisely recognized that such intense self-judgment is entirely counterproductive. Beating yourself up does not change the past. It only makes you feel worse in the present and less capable of positive action. Instead, we must strive to be kind, patient, and forgiving with ourselves, just as we would be with a dear friend who has stumbled. Acknowledge your shared humanness. You are a work in progress, constantly learning and growing through both your triumphs and your missteps. Give yourself full permission to be imperfect. When you catch your inner dialogue veering into harsh self-criticism, pause and consciously reframe those thoughts into ones of self-compassion and understanding. Remind yourself, I am doing the best I can with the knowledge and resources I have at this time. My worth is not defined by my mistakes. I choose to be gentle with myself as I learn and improve. With self-forgiveness and compassion, you create an internal environment of acceptance and emotional resilience. You will find you can bounce back quicker from challenges and face new ones with greater confidence and peace of mind. So embrace self-compassion. Be your own best friend and staunchest ally. Extend to yourself the same grace, empathy, and forgiveness you would readily give to others you care about. In doing so, you will find the psychological space to truly grow and thrive, unhindered by a heavy, paralyzing burden of regret and self-reproach. As Seneca encouraged, be gentle with yourself. Learn to forgive yourself, for it is only through this forgiveness that you may truly live. There may be times when communication is necessary and helpful. When you do choose to express your feelings, the Stoic approach is to use I statements and to take full ownership of your own experiences without blaming or accusing. For example, you might say, I felt deeply hurt and betrayed when I found out about your actions. I value honesty and trust in our relationships, and I'm struggling to understand what happened. And by communicating in this calm, non-accusatory way, you create a potential space for open and honest dialogue without immediately putting the other person on the defensive, which usually leads to more conflict. Remember, the goal of communication in the context of forgiveness is not necessarily to change the other person or to force them into an apology, things outside your control. Instead, focus on what is within your power, expressing your truth for your own clarity, setting necessary boundaries for your well-being, and creating the conditions for your own healing and understanding. However, the Stoics were also profound realists. They recognized that there may be times when direct communication is not possible, safe, or advisable, such as when there is a risk of further harm or abuse. Epictetus teaches us, in life our first job is this: to divide and distinguish things into two categories. Externals I cannot control, but the choices I make with regard to them, I do control. Recognize what is truly within your control and make wise, self-protective decisions about when and how to communicate. As you navigate the path of forgiveness, carefully consider whether communication is necessary and appropriate for your healing. If so, deeply reflect on your intentions beforehand, choose your words with care, and approach the conversation with a spirit of openness and compassion, but also with clear boundaries. Remember that while you cannot control the outcome or their reaction, you can always control your own thoughts, feelings, and actions, using them as powerful tools for your own continued healing and growth. A truly transformative Stoic practice is to learn from the experience of being wronged. One of the most powerful aspects of Stoic philosophy is its emphatic focus on personal growth and the extraction of wisdom from every situation, especially difficult ones. When it comes to embracing forgiveness, the Stoics encourage us to view challenging and painful situations not merely as misfortunes to be endured, but as valuable opportunities for learning and self-improvement. Rather than simply trying to get over or move past a painful experience, they urge us to reflect deeply on what we can take away from it and how we can use it to become better, wiser, more resilient versions of ourselves. Epictetus, one of the most renowned Stoic philosophers, gives us this foundational principle. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And this powerful statement reminds us that while we may not have control over the actions of others or the circumstances we find ourselves in, we always have a choice in how we respond. By choosing to approach hurtful situations with a growth mindset, we can transform even the most difficult experiences into catalysts for positive change within ourselves. Imagine a scenario where a close friend has betrayed your trust, leaving you feeling deeply hurt and angry. In the heat of the moment, it is easy to get completely caught up in the pain and the desire for retribution. However, the Stoics would encourage you to take a deliberate step back and ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? How can I use this situation to cultivate greater wisdom, resilience, and compassion within myself? Perhaps this betrayal has revealed a pattern in your relationships where you have struggled with setting healthy boundaries or communicating your needs effectively. Maybe it has highlighted areas where you need to work on building self-esteem and self-respect so that your worth is not so dependent on others. By honestly and courageously examining the situation and your role in it, without self-blame, you can gain incredibly valuable insights into yourself and identify real opportunities for personal growth. The Stoics also emphasize the importance of reframing challenges as chances to practice virtue and actively strengthen our character. Marcus Aurelius writes in his Meditations, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the obstacles we face, including the deep pain of being wronged, can actually serve as stepping stones towards becoming our best, most virtuous selves. In the case of forgiveness, learning from the experience might involve consciously cultivating qualities such as empathy, patience, and a deeper understanding of human fallibility. It may require you to develop greater emotional intelligence and the ability to communicate effectively, even in the most difficult situations. By viewing the hurtful event as a chance to practice these virtues, you fundamentally shift your focus from the pain of the past to the potential for growth in the present and future. It is important to note that learning from the experience does not mean condoning or excusing hurtful behavior. The Stoics are very clear that we should hold others accountable for their actions when necessary and set appropriate boundaries to protect ourselves. However, they also recognize with stark clarity that dwelling on blame and resentment only serves to harm ourselves further. By choosing to learn and grow from the situation, we take back our power and refuse to let the actions of others define our emotional state or our character. In practice, learning from the experience of being wronged involves a combination of quiet self-reflection, honest curiosity, and a willingness to step outside your comfort zone. It may require seeking guidance from trusted mentors, engaging in therapy or counseling, or exploring new perspectives through reading and study. The key is to approach the process with an open mind and a firm commitment to your own personal growth. As you navigate the path of forgiveness, take time to reflect on the lessons the experience has offered you. Ask yourself questions such as, what have I learned about myself and my relationships through this challenging situation? How can I use this knowledge to become a wiser, more compassionate, and more resilient person? What practical steps can I take to cultivate the virtues that will help me navigate future challenges with more grace and strength? By embracing this Stoic lesson of learning from the experience, you transform even the most painful situations into opportunities for profound personal growth. You develop a greater understanding of yourself and others. You cultivate practical wisdom and resilience, and you become better equipped to handle life's inevitable challenges with equanimity. Through this process, forgiveness becomes not just an act of letting go of the past, but a powerful catalyst for positive transformation and a life well lived. A fundamental Stoic strategy for peace is to focus on the present moment. Imagine carrying a heavy, worn-out backpack filled with the dense weight of past resentments. Each grievance, each remembered slight is like a rock you've chosen to carry. Each time you dwell on the hurtful event, you unconsciously add another rock to that backpack, making it heavier and more burdensome. The Stoics encourage us to make the conscious choice to set down that backpack, to unpack those rocks, and to embrace the freedom and possibility that exists only in the present moment. This does not mean ignoring the pain you have experienced. It is important and necessary to acknowledge and process your emotions healthily. But once you have given yourself adequate time to heal, the Stoic imperative is to shift your focus away from the unchangeable past and toward the living present and the positive aspects of your life that are still here, right now. Marcus Aurelius writes, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." Cultivating a genuine sense of gratitude for the simple joys and blessings that still exist in your life powerfully diminishes the mental space and energy that past hurts can occupy, and it creates a more resilient, positive mindset. To focus on the present, practice mindfulness. When you find yourself caught up in painful thoughts of the past, gently but firmly redirect your attention to the here and now. Engage your senses fully. Notice 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear. Take deep, slow breaths to anchor yourself in your body. Seek out positive experiences and nurturing connections that bring you joy in the present moment. Remember, focusing on the present doesn't mean ignoring the valuable lessons from the past or abandoning aspirations for the future. The Stoics actively encourage us to learn from our experiences and use that knowledge for growth and wisdom. However, they strongly caution against getting lost in unproductive rumination or regret, which only serves to keep us stuck. By embracing the Stoic lesson of focusing on the present, we cultivate a sustainable inner peace and resilience. We learn to find joy and contentment in the current moment, thereby freeing ourselves from the heavy chains of resentment and bitterness. So, the next time you find yourself dwelling on a hurtful event from the past, take a deep, conscious breath. Ground yourself firmly in the present reality around you and choose to focus your attention on the positive aspects of your life that are still present. By doing so, you will discover the transformative power of forgiveness and the profound joy of living fully in the here and now. A critical step toward freedom is to release the need for revenge. The Stoics warn us in the strongest terms that seeking revenge, however satisfying it may seem in fantasy, only prolongs our own suffering and keeps us trapped in a cycle of negativity and victimhood. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the best way to avenge yourself is not to become like the wrongdoer. By focusing our mental energy on revenge, we allow the person who hurt us to continue holding power over our emotions and actions. We remain psychologically tied to them. Imagine someone has deeply betrayed your trust. The desire for revenge can feel overwhelming and justified. But ask yourself with brutal honesty, will seeking revenge truly heal my wounds and bring me lasting happiness? Or will it simply create more pain and complexity? The Stoics teach us that true strength, the kind that is unassailable, lies in letting go of the need for revenge altogether. Epictetus says, "No one is ever made better by harm." By releasing the desire to get even, we free ourselves from the emotional chains that bind us to the person who wronged us. This doesn't mean forgetting the harm that was done or excusing the behavior. We can acknowledge the pain and hold people accountable in appropriate ways without allowing fantasies of revenge to consume our thoughts and poison our spirit. Instead, we can focus our energy on cultivating our own inner peace and resilience. Seneca advises, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Mal, by responding with compassion, understanding, and ultimately forgiveness, we demonstrate our own superior strength of character and moral fortitude. Releasing the need for revenge is a gradual process that requires vigilance. When thoughts of revenge arise, acknowledge them without judgment. They are a natural human reaction, but then consciously redirect your focus to constructive pursuits that benefit you. Invest in your own well-being, your hobbies, your growth, and you will find that the power these revenge fantasies hold over you will gradually diminish. Remember, holding on to the need for revenge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. It is a form of self-harm. By embracing this Stoic lesson, you embark on a path of true forgiveness, inner peace, and personal liberation. You rise above the pain of the past and create a future defined by your own strength, resilience, and compassion. Empathize with the other person is a profoundly powerful tool on the Stoic path to forgiveness. When someone wrongs us, it is incredibly easy to get trapped in the narrow confines of our own pain and anger, viewing the other person as a mere villain or a source of suffering. But the Stoics encourage us to make the courageous effort to step into the other person's shoes, to try to understand their perspective and the factors that may have led to their actions, even if we fundamentally disagree with those actions. Empathy is about humanizing the person who hurt us, recognizing the complex web of underlying factors, their own insecurities, personal struggles, fears, or ignorance that may have contributed to their hurtful behavior. Marcus Aurelius reminds us to enter, so far as possible, into the mind of the speaker. By making an effort to understand their point of view, we open the door to compassion, which is the fertile ground in which forgiveness can grow. Consider someone who has deeply hurt you. While it is natural and valid to feel betrayed and angry, try to take a moment to reflect on what might be driving their behavior. Everyone is fighting a hard battle you may know nothing about. Empathizing with their challenges and struggles allows us to see them as a flawed, suffering human being just like ourselves, not just as a one-dimensional source of our pain. It is crucial to understand that empathy does not mean excusing harmful behavior. It is still absolutely crucial to set boundaries and hold people accountable for their actions to protect yourself and maintain justice. But by understanding their perspective, we can approach the entire situation with greater wisdom, clarity, and compassion, which prevents us from adding our own bitterness to the world's suffering. Seneca says, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." Empathy reveals that opportunity for kindness and understanding, even in the face of hurtful actions. It enables us to respond with grace and patience rather than reactive anger. Practicing empathy can be incredibly challenging when we feel deeply hurt. It requires us to step outside our own pain to see the situation from a different angle. But by doing so, we cultivate emotional intelligence, resilience, and the ability to navigate difficult situations with a calm and clear mind. The next time someone hurts you, ask yourself, what might be going on in their life that contributed to this? What pain might they be carrying that caused them to act this way? By making a sincere effort to understand their perspective, you open the door to forgiveness and your own personal growth. Remember, empathy is not about condoning hurtful behavior. It's about recognizing our shared humanity and fallibility and approaching life's challenges with wisdom and compassion. As you cultivate empathy, forgiveness becomes a more natural extension of your understanding, allowing you to release anger and resentment and move forward with greater peace and resilience. A key Stoic insight is to separate the person from their action. It is tempting and emotionally easy to reduce someone to their hurtful deeds, to label them as a bad person and write them off entirely. But the Stoics remind us that people are immensely complex individuals, capable of both good and bad behaviors. A single action does not define their entire character. Marcus Aurelius encourages a practice of introspection before criticism. Whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself, what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? This approach promotes humility, empathy, and understanding, reminding us of our own imperfections and the universality of human error. It is crucial to recognize that a person's hurtful actions often do not represent the sum total of their character. They may be acting out of fear, ignorance, unresolved pain, or a momentary lapse in judgment, things we are all susceptible to. We cannot always see the internal struggles and battles someone is facing. By making the conscious effort to separate the person from their actions, we create psychological space for compassion and the possibility of forgiveness. Consider a friend who has deeply hurt you. While the feeling of anger is understandable, try to reflect on the positive aspects of your relationship and the admirable qualities you have seen in them in the past. These aspects of their character still exist, even alongside their capacity to make a mistake. Seneca asserts that all cruelty springs from weakness. Recognizing that hurtful actions often stem from a place of personal pain, insecurity, or weakness within the other person allows us to separate the person from their behavior. We can acknowledge their struggles and humanity without in any way condoning their actions. It is important to note that this separation doesn't mean tolerating or excusing harmful behavior. Maintaining healthy boundaries and holding others accountable for their actions is often necessary for your safety and well-being. However, by distinguishing the individual from their wrongdoing, we open the door to understanding, potential growth, and even reconciliation in some cases. By focusing on the shared humanity behind the hurtful actions, we can cultivate forgiveness. We acknowledge that others, like ourselves, are imperfect and capable of change and redemption. In doing so, we release ourselves from the burdens of all-consuming anger and resentment, enabling us to move forward with greater inner peace and compassion. Before any of this can happen, you must acknowledge your emotions fully. Before diving into the intellectual process of forgiveness, the Stoics remind us of a vital first step: to honestly acknowledge and validate our emotions without judgment. Are you feeling anger, hurt, betrayal, sadness? Name them. Don't push these feelings aside or pretend they don't exist. Seneca said, "The first step towards wisdom is to call things by their proper name." So let's name those emotions clearly and bring them out into the light of awareness. But here is the crucial Stoic twist. Just because we feel something strongly does not mean we have to be controlled by it or enslaved to it. Epictetus tells us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Our feelings are data, not commands. So how can we process these emotions in a healthy, Stoic way? Try journaling your thoughts and feelings without filter, or talk to a trusted, level-headed friend. Getting these feelings out of your head and into the open air is like emotional decluttering. It reduces their power and gives you perspective. And remember to be kind to yourself throughout this process. Treat yourself with the same compassion and patience you would show a dear friend going through a tough time. By acknowledging and processing our emotions in a healthy way, we create a solid, stable foundation for genuine forgiveness. It is not about suppressing or avoiding our pain. It is about understanding it, hearing its message, and then moving through it toward healing. So, take a deep breath. Give yourself full permission to feel what you feel. Trust the journey. As you navigate this path with self-awareness and compassion, you will find that forgiveness becomes a source of strength and liberation, not of weakness. Remember, forgiveness is a process, and acknowledging your emotions is the crucial first step. Be patient, be kind to yourself, and know that by facing your feelings head-on, you are already well on your way to embracing the transformative power of forgiveness. All of this rests on the foundational Stoic principle. Understand that forgiveness is a choice. Forgiveness is not a feeling that washes over you passively. It is not something that happens to you automatically when enough time has passed. It is a conscious, active decision you make for your own well-being and peace of mind. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Holding on to anger, resentment, and bitterness only harms the person carrying those feelings. It is a self-inflicted wound. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." By choosing to forgive, you free yourself from the burden of these negative emotions and allow yourself to move forward with a clear mind and a lighter heart. Imagine carrying that heavy backpack filled with rocks of grudges and past hurts. The longer you hold on to them, the more exhausted and weighed down you become. Forgiveness is the conscious process of setting down that backpack and removing the rocks one by one. It may not be easy, and it will take time and effort, but with each rock you let go, you will feel lighter, freer, and more at peace. The Stoics were also clear that forgiveness doesn't mean condoning the wrong or offensive, but understand that each person acts according to experience, belief, and needs that most of the time will contrast with your view. And such acts, intentionally driven or not, requires live experience. It, for instance, demands time. So, acknowledge your emotions. Before diving into the act of forgiveness, the Stoics remind us to first acknowledge and validate our emotions. Are you feeling anger, hurt, or betrayal? Do not push those feelings aside. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, says, "The first step towards wisdom is to call things by their proper name." So let's name those emotions and bring them into the light. But here is the important thing. Just because we feel something does not mean we have to be controlled by it. Epictetus, another Stoic legend, tells us, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." So how can we process these emotions in a healthy way? Try journaling or talking to a trusted friend. Get those feelings out on paper or in conversation. It is like emotional decluttering. And remember to be kind to yourself along the way. Treat yourself with the same compassion you would show a dear friend going through a tough time. By acknowledging and processing our emotions, we create a solid foundation for forgiveness. It is not about suppressing or avoiding our feelings. It is about understanding them and allowing ourselves to heal. So, take a deep breath. Give yourself permission to feel and trust the journey. As you navigate this path with self-awareness and compassion, you will find that forgiveness becomes a source of strength and liberation. Remember, forgiveness is a process, and acknowledging your emotions is a crucial first step. Be patient, be kind to yourself, and know that by facing your feelings head-on, you are already well on your way to embracing the transformative power of forgiveness. Finally, you must understand that forgiveness is a choice. Forgiveness is not something that happens to us automatically. It is a conscious decision we make for our own well-being and peace of mind. The Stoics understood that holding on to anger, resentment, and bitterness only harms the person carrying those feelings. Marcus Aurelius, a renowned Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." By choosing to forgive, you free yourself from the burden of negative emotions and allow yourself to move forward with a clear mind and heart. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with rocks, each representing a grudge or a past hurt. The longer you hold on to these rocks, the more exhausted and weighed down you become. Forgiveness is like setting down that backpack and removing the rocks one by one. It may not be easy and it may take time, but with each rock you let go of, you feel lighter, freer, and more at peace. The Stoics also recognized that forgiveness does not mean condoning or forgetting the wrongdoing. It is not about letting the offender off the hook or pretending that the hurt never happened. Instead, forgiveness is about acknowledging the pain, learning from the experience, and choosing to release the negative emotions that keep you trapped in the past. Epictetus, another prominent Stoic philosopher, said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When someone wrongs you, you have a choice in how you respond. You can either react with anger and bitterness, allowing the offender to control your emotions, or you can choose to forgive, taking back your power and reclaiming your peace of mind. Remember, forgiveness is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength and resilience. It takes courage to let go of the past and embrace a more positive future. By understanding that forgiveness is a choice, you empower yourself to break free from the cycle of anger and resentment and create a life of greater harmony and inner peace." Stoic reflection. Forgiveness is a powerful tool that can help us find inner peace and move forward in life. By applying these 10 Stoic lessons, we can learn to let go of resentment, cultivate empathy, and embrace the transformative power of forgiveness. Remember, holding on to anger and grudges only harms ourselves, while forgiveness liberates us from the burden of negative emotions. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Choose to rise above the hurt and find strength in forgiveness. It is a journey that requires practice and patience, but the rewards are immeasurable. Thank you for watching this video on Stoicism and forgiveness. If you found value in these lessons, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more content on personal growth and philosophy. Until next time, keep embracing the wisdom of the Stoics and the power of forgiveness in your daily life. Please subscribe.